Taylor Riggs, along with my courageous co-hosts, and with us for the entire hour, Michael Lee, strategy founder. Michael Lee, great to have you.
Thanks for having me again.
So fighting continues across the Middle East as Operation Epic Fury enters day 4 within treasuries or gold, but it feels like we are not panicking. Do you agree? Do you look at this at least as a buying opportunity?
So, I mean, it depends where you sit. If you're 100% in cash and waiting for an opportunity to get in, then yes, I would put at least half that money to work today. If you're already invested and you got a little stuff on the sideline, you know, I want to see, I think days like we had yesterday and days like we have today where the market starts out ugly and gets better throughout the day, that's what you look for in signs of a strong tape. And, you know, if you go back like 75 years, 2/3 of the time, a year out from a geopolitical shock, the market's higher. The median is 7%, the average is 3%. Not a huge move, but I mean, it tends to make a lot of sense. If this is a short-lived conflict and the regime that ends up running Iran is much less, they're not looking for, you know,
not terrorists.
You know, not death to America, right?
Yeah, the bar is low.
It should make. Like markets should bounce back from this, but there's some really interesting things going on in the private credit market. So BCRED threw up the gates today. So Blackstone's flagship private credit vehicle threw up the gates because of all the redemptions. So what that means is people requested a certain amount of money back and they'll get a portion of it over time. So that private credit and kind of the debt capital markets with all these companies raising so much money for the AI data centers, that to me is the next kind of thing once we move past this. But we should eventually move past all that.
Okay, I actually want to talk about that. And Dagan, you've been in this private credit issue, and
I'll say policies like this are the risk of going to war with Iran. Now, why do I say that? Okay, this is the least popular conflict in like the last 100 years going in. It's like 30% support going in. I'll confess, I'm one of the 30%, okay? But if this doesn't go well, like Americans are sick and tired of war. And what's gonna happen is the coalition that elected Donald Trump, there's a lot of low propensity, there's a lot of anti-war voters in there that are gonna sit out, right? They're not necessarily gonna vote Democrat, but if they just stay home, which is what happened to Obama in 2010 and 2014, a lot of his supporters just stayed home. And you had huge sweeps. Like you could be lining up for a 1994 type situation for the Democrats in this election, and this is who they are. Okay, 6 in 10 Democrats view socialism positively. Okay, 3 in 10 are committed socialists, right? So to me, this is the real risk. And look, you know, what's the problem with socialism? You eventually run out of other people's money, and it's lunacy. They're trying to do this in California, and what happens is all these left-wing billionaires that elected all these politicians are now going to leave the state because they don't want to deal with the mess that they made. And so Gavin Newsom may be putting up his hand right now, but like his politics, like he's in the politics of power. If policies like this are going to coalesce more power around him, like he'll be the first one signing up. He's as fluid as the wind as it becomes to his political compass, as long as it ends up with him with more power. And that's all this is. It's a power grab. It's these wealthy people are not, they can't be in charge of our country. It's going to be AOC, it's going to be Bernie, and whatever left-wing nonsense, you know, they want to come out here. So that's what makes me, that's because I'm not worried about our military and the technology that we have and the things that are going to happen over there. Okay, but if this drags out, which we'd have no idea where it's going to go, the midterms, which aren't really looking too good right now, can get progressively worse.
This is likely unconstitutional. It would require a much bigger bureaucracy to value these assets, particularly very illiquid ones, a much bigger government footprint.
I mean, I like parents better than bureaucrats. Speaking of which, Mike, the person who runs the department that I would like to get rid of, because I don't think it's the government's business, her name is Tiki Brown. And she has been in charge of this department since it was created in 2024. It was other things before that. She has not lost her job. Nobody who has oversight responsibility seems to ever lose their job in all of this. I will not believe any of what's happening on fraud accountability until massive amounts of people in these government agencies lose their jobs.
Look, with AI and all the tools that are out there, to conduct forensic audits in very short periods of time is easy. right? We should be able to know with the high degree of certainty of where every single dollar has gone from the state to these agencies, right? It's not that hard to get the bank records, right, to follow the money from the state into these agencies. And if once you're taking the government's money, you can't exactly say, no, you can't look at my books and records, right? So the fraud hasn't been found.
But that's what they do. Like, they shut the door when people show up to want to see if any kids go to the Leering Center, right? Or Keith Ellison, the AG, meets with, a bunch of people, and they say, well, people are on our back because they think we're wasting money. He says, don't worry about it. I mean, like that, they do actually try to keep you from looking at the books.
So like, I come from an Irish background. And I think we are the first ones to pioneer, like taking a skim off the government, like a Tammany Hall, not too far from here. And so that's what's happening, right? If they haven't found the fraud and no one's getting fired, like these people are in on it, right? It's very clear to everyone who's watching. And I think the Trump administration could make this one of their #1 issues for the midterms, and it would pave the way for them. And because I think the dollar amounts are staggering, and if you rewind the clock, just a little over a year ago when Doge was coming out with all these numbers, like the approval rating for Republicans was skyrocketing, and this should be priority #1 on the domestic agenda, is stamping out this fraud. An announcement came across 2 hours ago in the New York Post. Dr. Oz is going to do an investigation into New York, but this is not opaque accounting. It's not hard for the government to figure it out. It's not hard, like how many children are there? Give me the last 4 digits of their social security number. Let's see how much money you were paid. Okay, the money's not there. The funnel gets kicked, you shut off the spigot. You're going to jail or give us our money back.
It sounds great, but the stonewalling, Jackie, is epic. I mean, the stonewalling.
Trump hit Iran, but he really has China in his crosshairs. He goes on to Stephen Mosher to kind of summarize his thesis here by saying, from Panama to Venezuela, from Greenland to Iran, the pieces of the puzzle are falling into place. Trump is thinking very bigly. And when you stand back from 1,000 feet and look at it that way, I think it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, if you look at all of these actions, whether it be Maduro or, like you said, Greenland or
Even
Panama,
Greenland,
or what happened over the weekend, and you look at view China as an existential threat. You look at the reindustrialization of our country as it comes to shipbuilding and kind of all the startups and the things that they're trying to get going. And I don't know how much traction there's been, but there's a massive order for a bunch of destroyers and other warships to build up a fleet in the Pacific. Like, we're getting ourselves on that war footing in case something were to happen with China. And as Gordon was saying in the beginning, I think it's debatable how this is going to, how much of their oil this is going to take off the table. But I think it matters. It's going to fundamentally drive the cost of energy in that country higher, which makes life harder for them.
Right.
So a lot of these things really start making sense when you look at it through that lens, because, why Maduro on that weekend? Why Iran this weekend? Why are all these things happening now? Because Iran's been an issue since the late 70s.
Right.
So why now? And so I think there's a huge AI arms race, there's a little arms race, and we're trying to fortify our defenses.
There was a viewer on Twitter saying that I had